Podcasting from New York, New York, it's Grant's Rants, Hollywood Talk.
Erika Jayne lacks remorse while desperately seeking sympathy. A new OC housewife is already filing for divorce. Kathy Griffin has been through it. We question Megan McCain's legacy after leaving The View. Sheila Carter returns to The Bold and the Beautiful. And vile Jamie Spears is grasping at straws for another 5150. That and more with Tim Murdock right here. Let the ranting begin. I am thrilled to be joined by my LA friend, Tim Murdock from Happy Horror Time podcast with his podcast partner, Matt Emert. Welcome back to Grant's Rants.
Woo!
I want to get off first by saying I'm really not watching any TV this summer. I'm just kind of enjoying life. I haven't watched a frame of the Olympics. Do you watch that?
I have not. The last time I watched the Olympics was 2004.
Oh, even that's too recent. Even that's plenty. Like, you're still good. Like, nobody cares. Like, I mean, at least I don't. I just don't have any interest, and it's not my genre, and it's not my thing. And honestly, I think it's all too soon. Like, they're doing this with empty stands. It's a mess. I didn't plan to talk about the Olympics, but I have to just rant because I always do when it's Olympic season. I can't express how little interest I have in the Olympics.
Absolutely. It's so not on my radar. Like, I mean, I did catch a little bit of women's volleyball, and I will say the girls were outstanding, but I did go fastly to Bravo.
Well, you are our kind of people, for sure. Because I mean, the Olympics, and the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, I'm not about it. But that's not saying I'm all for Beverly Hills Housewives either. I'm watching this just so I can really talk about it. I have strong opinions more than ever about this show.
Good.
Let's talk a little bit about this thing. Lisa Rinna, she outed the fakery of the show this week on Instagram, talking about a verbal altercation that Erika had with a producer. Now, did I miss something? I know I fast forward a lot through Beverly Hills, but I finished the last scene with her hyperventilating in the closet, the bathroom, a bedroom, I don't know. But where was this altercation? Where was the screaming?
My guess is it was either right after that or before that. I mean, maybe we'll see it next week because whenever I check my DVR, it says like the unseen footage episode. So maybe it will be in that, at least I hope. But they should put it in just one good episode. Don't make us watch the unseen stuff. My DVR is cluttered.
Yeah, because I heard that she was yelling at Garcelle, but Garcelle wasn't even in the scene. They were taking footage. She was yelling at a producer. That's what I heard/read. So I'm not sitting through this episode again for unseen footage. I won't do that for any show. So someone's gonna have to let me know because I will
let you know because once in a blue moon I check out both.
Yeah, I mean, this might be one honestly to look at if that's the case, just to see what they're talking about. In my opinion, this whole Erika thing, I mean, I am not an advocate for Erika. I think I just think she's a total hustler. But they're calling this whole situation with her talking about Tom calling her, quote, a private conversation that was picked up by production on the mics. Now, these women are all astute and have been on reality TV for more than a minute. They know how this works. There's no such thing as a private conversation. I don't buy it.
Yeah, everyone's mic'd. The cameras are rolling. I'm all for putting on a producer. I always love to see the producer. And, Beverly Hills I think, is the one that they always pretty much do, especially with Denise Richards. I loved all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're not, we're trained at this point. We know how this stuff is made. So, just show the clip. I mean, you don't even need to show the producer's face. I think they just should show Erika for exactly who she is, because I'm tired of this tour of sympathy that she's on, but yet she talks out of two sides of her mouth. I'll get into all of it, but not intrigued, not a fan. Again, that private conversation, I don't know what the hell they were talking about. You can't get away with that. Of course, they're blaming unfair editing. of course.
Yeah, I hate when they go to unfair editing. And I actually was very sympathetic for Garcelle when Erika snapped at her. I just felt like I have no sympathy for Erika Jayne either. I used to like her back in 2016 when she was singing How Many F's Do I Give and blah, blah, blah.
Same.
I was like, oh, she's cute.
Yeah, I mean, I was okay. I saw her, I think once or twice perform. Like, yeah, I mean, that was like, she was new to the scene. I still didn't think she was like the warmest person, but like, how my opinions have changed on her just from her actions. I mean, so much I want to say. So I'm just going to sound off. Erika proves to me that I have this written down, but she just proves to me that she's continuously awful. I feel like she is, really feeling the pressure of trying to keep this narrative together. And I think she's cracking under the pressure of it. I think she's kind of going crazy. This is nothing new. We've now seen all this stuff play out in the press, and we have to think in context. This is like the end of last year, before that New York Times article. And I believe almost every single word of that article, by the way. So
me too.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is before all that. I think she's really cracking under pressure. She's controlling. I think she's lying. I think she's trying so hard to be sympathetic. I think she's incredibly disingenuous. And not only that, she's showing zero remorse. And I mean, I've bitched about her before on this podcast, but like these episodes, I mean, I'm not falling for it. And a lot of people are defending her and they're questioning everything. I'm just not here for it.
I agree with you 110%. Again, it's really, really hard to be sympathetic. I know that like a 20-year marriage is coming to an end, but I mean, according to her, was there a marriage? I mean, like with him snapping at her, I love that they go to the same 3 clips where he's like, I'm talking, Erika.
Yeah, the same one. Yeah. Over and over.
They're like, we have to make him look like a bad guy. I'm sure he was a bad guy behind the scenes, but it's really hard. And she just moved to Larchmont with a pool. I know. My sympathy level's like very low.
Very low. I mean, like she's living in a house that I'll probably in my lifetime never be able to afford. Even though she's paying rent, I still could not afford that rent. Just saying.
Oh my gosh. Larchmont is beautiful. Her house is beautiful. Yes, she downsized. Not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I don't feel too bad. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is like the lack of remorse for me is really gross, and that's indefensible. I mean, bottom line is there was money transferred into her LLC, and now we're seeing that she basically said in this episode recently that her career is over. So okay, then what's all that money doing in that account? Like, what are you doing with it? But the bottom line is, she on the show has shown off. She bought a new Range Rover, the house that we just talked about. Now she's in this casita on vacation. Now, I looked this up because I said, now, this is ridiculous. She's there. She's hosting an event. She's showing it off like it's her own house. So proud of it. Now, it's a casita. The way it was viewed, online anyway, the way it was posted was it said $871 per night with a $35 resort fee. Now, some caveats. It's a Hilton property, so maybe Kathy was able to get like a friends and family deal. Okay, so what was it now? What, $700 a night maybe? Then production could have paid for some, if not all. Maybe she had some Hilton points laying around, although she claims she had no cards or anything, so she doesn't have any points. The bottom line is it's a bad look. It's a bad look to be staying in the biggest villa on the property, okay?
Right. And it's just her. I think she said her dog was there, but who cares? I've actually been lucky. I've stayed there. Oh. And The Bachelorette filmed there during the pandemic season.
Oh, so you really have some inside knowledge of this location.
Yeah. It's absolutely beautiful. But I mean, if it's just her, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I would have said like, no. I mean, she said, this is what I mean about talking out of 2 sides of her mouth. In the episode, she says, like, you know, I can't say as much as people would want me to say. It's best to be quiet when you're, you know, going through a major divorce and a legal battle like this. But yet she's talking about it because she's on the show. She's going to the reunion, which she has to do because it's her contract. But the least she could do is show a little contrition and say, you know what, maybe I don't need the biggest, best room on the property. Maybe I can just get a nice king suite. You know, maybe I can just get something to show that I'm a little bit humble. You know, that to me is her like jerking people around, and it's just seeing how much she can get away with. I don't like it.
Right. And now that I don't know the timeline. Does she know about the plane crash victims and the burn victims. Like, does she know about this at this point, or we're still along? Like, or is that another like 6 episodes to go?
I don't know to what extent, but this article like really blew everything out of the water. So we'll see. But there's a lot of poor Erika. And I will say, I got to give credit to the editors where they at least have Sutton questioning some of these things. Like,
yeah, I can't wait for Sutton to do that.
Yeah, it's worth having like an alternative viewpoint in there. I mean, the internet is very divided on this. So not everyone feels sympathy for this woman.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any here.
It's hard.
Sorry.
It's tough.
Yeah,
me neither. I don't care.
No. Now, if we're ready, let's turn over to another mess in the making over on the Real Housewives of Orange County. A new unnamed housewife, Noella Bergener, I believe her last name is. She's already filing for divorce. She just started filming a week. She's not even announced, already in the OC tradition, filing for divorce. What do you think?
I'm here for this because well, first off, I heard it was just $6 million. And it's always weird because we just went from Erika, who had $20 million. So Orange County just seems like, the situation's not as, it's very interesting still. But, her husband's not 20 years older.
Right.
She's gorgeous. I Googled what she looked like, and she's gorgeous. Him, not so much, but that seems to be the way of these shows.
Yeah. Oh, she's following right in line. Yeah, you mentioned $6 million. That's allegedly what he's accused of owing in back taxes. So, yeah, she's likely distancing herself as fast as possible. I know according to the article anyway, it said that she's looking for primary custody of the kids, and they have a 2-year-old son. They just were married in June of 2020. I mean, that marriage was 10 minutes long?
I mean, and I love that they use the word blindsided. Well,
Yeah.
she might have been, but I mean, I think when someone has that much money, you have to question everything.
Yes. And this guy's a personal injury attorney, so even that. I mean, I don't know. His name is on everything. He's came up overnight, it seems like, with having his name sponsoring big events like the NBA and things like that, or at least a Thursday night game. I don't know. It looks all good from the outside, but on the inside, typical OC. This woman, she's already fitting right in.
Yeah, I wonder if it's going to upstage Heather Dubrow's return.
Ooh, I wonder. Yeah, I mean, Heather won't like that. I think this is going to be the Heather season, so.
I do enjoy watching. I think Heather reminds me of Bethany Frankel. They're so no nonsense. And I really like that because they call out the other women. And I think that's why Heather and Bethany just really give it.
Yeah. And Heather is the real deal money, and she will bring some class to the show. I don't know how much story interest she'll bring, but she will bring that very real direct factor that we need. So I hope
And we can see her house.
Yeah. Oh, can we finally? Yeah. I mean, are they finally going to allow that, the complex or whatever that she lives in, the community? I hope so. Now, there's
Me too. I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah. We need that payoff. It's been a decade. Literally. Noella here, the new housewife, there's no word on whether she's full-time or a friend or if she'll even make it in. I'm sure now that she's going through this divorce, like many house husbands before her, he will probably make it difficult to show the kids on camera and all this. So, I mean, what we don't need is a Gina 2.0 story. That's not what I'm looking for. We've already told that story. I've been waiting for it to end. I mean, let's just hope that it's not the same young mom, single mom, adjusting to, being quote unquote broke by living in a $2 million house,
Right. Boo-hoo.
Let's transition to Kathy Griffin, who I didn't know how you would feel about this topic, but you said in the pre-chat that you were interested and you're a big Kathy fan. So I was like, all right, we got to put this in.
Yes, I love Kathy Griffin so much. I've seen her live a good 5 times. And in one of her specials called Allegedly, she says a joke and it cuts to me laughing. So I will always have a big love for Kathy Griffin. And plus, as someone who has done stand-up, you can see it, Tim Murdock on YouTube. I don't, it's really, really interesting to me that she got so crucified for holding a fake head. And I know that it's in bad taste and it's tacky, but she's a comedian. She's not running for Congress. So it will always be fascinating to me that she got so much bad press for, yes, it's tacky, but who cares? It's Kathy Griffin. She's a sitcom star from Suddenly Susan.
I mean, we have seen since that photo so much poor behavior from people with a lot more power, influence, and political appeal get away with so much more, in my point of view. I mean, for the time, like, I was totally turned off by that photo, but time, like I've said on the podcast, I've said like on different shows, like over time, like, okay, put it in the rearview mirror, like it is what it is. And like, later, what are we going to do? Crucify this woman? She still exists on the planet. So, I mean,
yeah.
It's like, for me, I'm past it myself, but this woman has really been through it. If it wasn't the United States government turning on her, she's now been recently diagnosed with lung cancer. Now, she claims she never smoked. I know she never drank. So I'm wondering, is it the secondhand smoke from the comedy clubs?
Oh, it could be a number of things. I mean, like, it's really interesting to me when people that have no smoking get anything like that. But, I found the really interesting thing is that she said, I fear drug addiction more than cancer.
Yeah, because it came out that she's been addicted to prescription pills.
I don't think I have an addictive personality, but I really feel for her. I feel like that is a struggle every day, and in isolation during the pandemic, that must have been awful.
Yeah, and I remember seeing that she got married to her manager, who seems to always be in her corner, but I'm trying to think of where that was in the timeline of events, because in June of 2020, she admitted this, that she tried to take her own life with an overdose, and that was the last time she was in the hospital. Now she's in the hospital for this treatment of her lung cancer. So this woman's really been through it, and I have a lot of thoughts about Kathy, but I'm going to do a quick Google search to see when that wedding was, but I want to get your thoughts on the kind of the news. I mean, it's not fun. It's dark, She's really kind of taking a turn.
It's very dark news on Kathy Griffin, and I've loved her since the D List, and I remember when I first moved here, she had a really funny show where she was talking about the show Cribs with Mariah Carey, and like she would like have this huge video of, and like she'd pause it and talk about Mariah Carey. So I just think she's like the funniest comedian. She's my personal favorite, funniest comedian. And I thought what she said is, she goes, when she in her dark days of pills, is when she said, if I can't make others laugh, there is no reason to live. That's like really, really dark stuff. So yeah, I'd love to give Kathy Griffin a hug, but I'm her fan base. Like, she is all about gay men.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking it up now. She married her now husband, Randy, on New Year's Eve. Lily Tomlin married them. So that would be, like 6 months after her, roughly her overdose. So good. I'm glad that she has him in her life. I mean, it seems like she's pretty isolated. And of course, COVID didn't help any of us mentally. So, yeah, I'm happy for her that like she's being public about it, speaking about it. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who are rolling their eyes at her like, oh, really? Now this, now that. But, you're always going to get that with there's always going to be people who absolutely hate her because you have so many Trump loyalists. So I don't know how she ever comes out of it. But I always viewed her as never the same after the Trump takedown. I kind of viewed her as someone who was like really broken and almost, I mean, not to be rude, but like someone that like kind of cracked up a bit. And now I'm wondering what that was like in relation to the prescription medication addiction.
Yeah. And, it really sucks that like her and Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen haven't buried the hatchet. Like, I really want them to all be friends again, because I think if you watched on New Year's Eve, there seemed to be a genuine connection between the three of them. So hopefully, God forbid anything happens to her, they mend wounds soon.
I mean, if I were her, I would not want to be bothered with them at all. I mean, they're such turncoats. I mean, I wouldn't want to be bothered with them. They weren't there for her in times of need, in times of, sickness, and I'd be permanently done. So that's how I would feel anyway.
That's true. Well, I just want all my Bravo celebrities to be friends.
Like Kathy on What Happens Live, those were can't miss episodes. And, shout out to Jeff Lewis, who maintains like keeping those episodes interesting because, yeah, there's a few people that can really work that show, and Kathy was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, and she wasn't mean-spirited like Jeff was, but I do appreciate Jeff, even though I think he's a horrible person.
Yeah, no, accurate. Yes, I agree. Well, we're going to get into part 2 of this episode. We're going to tease a little bit here, talking about Brittany, the Instagram, and then Megan McCain makes her exit. There's a couple more things mixed in there. Stick with us. That and more in a moment with Tim Murdock. Now this.